Good day, Kavibal, and welcome to our Learning Skills Diagnosis webinar series. For the discussion today, the topic will be on identifying students' reading levels, a reading diagnostic approach. Before we begin, take note of the following reminders. Make sure you are registered to the webinar to have your e-certificate of participation. Visit certificate.vibalgroup.com to generate your proof of attendance. Place your questions on the comment box allotted during the session and they will be addressed by our speaker later on. Share the video using hashtag LearnAs1PH as our official hashtag to our Vibal webinars. Experience learning, Kavibal. And now, to proceed with our webinar this afternoon, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our distinguished speaker today. Our speaker today graduated cum laude from Isabela State University, Cabagan, with a degree Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English. He finished his master's degree in education at University of Makati. In 2018, he pursued his PhD in English language teaching at Metropolitan College. Currently, he is working on his dissertation for his Doctor for Education in Management at University of Makati. He has been teaching for 9 years in Makati High School as an English teacher. He believes that our dreams do come true if we have the courage to pursue them. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Carlos A. Buraga.
Thank you so much for the generous introduction. Good afternoon, Kavibal. Good afternoon, teachers. Good afternoon, viewers. It is the third day of our webinar series in learning diagnosis, and we have learned a lot for the past few webinars, and we are still learning. Thank you so much, Vibal, for the opportunity that you have given me. Before I start my presentation, let me just greet the following very quick. Good afternoon to my division superintendent, Ma'am Carlene Cedilia, my school principal, Sir Felix Bunagan, and my assistant principal, Ma'am Giselle Villaud. Um, this topic is actually very close to my heart, but before that, I would like to share my screen. All right. Okay. Identifying students' reading levels, a diag reading level diagnosis. Okay. As I have said a while ago, this topic is very close to my heart because I have had this when I had my thesis and dissertation, and I can still remember that when I was looking for literature review, I encountered a lot of researches and studies about reading and reading levels. I just realized that, even before, reading has been one of the subjects of research because the same problems still exist even up to this day. And I'll pose that as a challenge for us teachers to, you know, let's try to devise ways on how to teach our students become good readers, in which I believe we are all doing. So let me show to you the outline of my presentation so that we'll be guided on the flow of the topic. I will start with the introduction by giving some definitions of reading. Discussion to be followed, I'll be discussing about diagnostic approach. What are the reading assessments that we are using to identify the reading levels of the students, as well as some of the strategies that we can utilize to teach in teaching reading. And after which, I'll move with I'll present profile analysis. Let's try to identify some of the problems that we encounter usually in the classroom, and clarifications. If you have questions later on, you just have to write on the comment box so that we will entertain that after the presentation. And conclusion. Identifying reading levels of the students is very important because it is through this that we are able to determine their strengths and needs. Imagine if a student got promoted to the next level without having mastered the basic skills of reading. Not only the teacher will be challenged, but as well as the student, because he cannot cope with the new skills that he needs to master. So in as much as possible, we have to determine in an earlier stage these levels of students so that we'll provide immediate action or immediate intervention for them to become good readers. Before I start, let me ask you these questions. Which assessments are used in your school to assess the learner's reading? Do these assessments enable you to identify patterns of reading difficulties? If not, what additional assessments you use in struggling readers to help you do so? Okay. In public schools, we have been using different assessments to identify the reading levels of the students. And what are the strengths and weaknesses of the reading curriculum at your school, particularly of reading problems that might be common? We will answer these questions as we go along with the presentation. So now let's have some of the um, definitions of reading. Reading, writing, speaking, listening, and viewing are five essential skills that a student must have in order for him to learn all by himself. Reading is one of the macro skills that must be mastered by students, in as early as grade 3, because if a student has difficulty in reading, it would greatly affect his or her academic and social success. Mastery of the skills may lead to a student to excel in subjects using the English language as a medium of instruction. Reading is very important in all subjects, not only in English. It is used when learning subject areas like Filipino, math, science, and so forth and so on. So, students should have mastered the components of reading, like phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, um, comprehension, because in my observation, I know this is not just in my observation, but I believe that we have observed this very often. There are actually students who got promoted in higher levels, but are non-readers. So this is very challenging because it should be in the earlier stage, actually, where these students already be trained and given intervention. But the problem is they get promoted having not mastered these basic skills. And it is very frustrating on our part as teachers. Why? Because we often get the blame, right? Of, why those students were non-readers. But I believe, we are all teachers, we are creative. And I know that we are all exerting efforts to the best of our abilities to extend help and necessary interventions to these struggling students. So reading is very important. Next, it serves It serves as a gateway to every student to learn the different subjects. Like what I've said earlier, reading is not just needed in the area of English, it is a prerequisite of learning all areas. We need that in math, we need that in Filipino, science, and other subject areas. So the implication of this one is that when when a student is non-reader, of course he will have a problem in his academics because um, it is a prerequisite of learning different subject areas. When students reach grade 3, they should have mastered the basic skills in reading. Like what I've said earlier, students should be taught these basic skills so that when they reach high school, you know what, they will gradually learn other complex skills, right? Like students should have at least mastered how to decode, um, should be should master vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. You know, many students read satisfactorily, but some do not. What do? They make omissions, they make reversals, what else? Substitutions, additions, and inversions. And this is one of the problems that we teachers are facing even up to this day. Defining diagnostic approach. Why do we need diagnostic assessments? Why do we need to diagnose the reading level of the students? We use different diagnostic approaches to identify the reading level of the students, you know, kung nasaang level na ba ang estudyante natin, right? And every opening of the school year, we conduct a comprehension assessment, reading test to students for reading comprehension assessment. And this is a very important step in determining student baseline performance because students, you know, we have a lot of students who have different backgrounds. Students have diverse backgrounds and skills in literacy. So there is really a need to identify, um, to diagnose and identify the reading levels of our students. A diagnostic approach is a comprehensive way of using data that is gathered by examining three primary components of effective reading instruction. What are these three components? First is the learner. Okay? Napakahalagang malaman kung sino ang ating mga learners. You know, using diagnostic approaches, we are able to identify the strengths and needs of the students and make immediate action or intervention to meet their needs. Para pagdating nila ng, for example, ng high school, at least they were able to master these basic skills and are ready to master complex skills. And remember, hindi lahat ng students natin ay marunong magbasa. Kaya naman, kailangan nating ma-diagnose. We have to know, we have to identify ang kanilang reading ability. Some students have special needs. Let's always remember that. Their teachers, they have special needs that require review of basic skills in reading. This is actually very challenging on our part. So first one is we have to know our learner, who our learners are. Next component is instruction. You know, due to these various student levels, it is necessary to design literacy instruction to meet the individual needs of the student. right? This is our basis. The basis of teachers is the diagnostic test given to the student. And based on the result of the diagnostic test, we teachers are able to design proper instruction, proper materials for our students. That is why examining our learners is very important, because through that, we are able to look for what strategies that will be provided to support the students needs. Okay, let's think about let's think for strategies that we might use, that we will use in, before reading, during reading, and after reading. These are very important. And part of this instruction is, let's provide teachers should be provided proper training, right? Part of this is to provide teachers with proper training, because no matter how good the curriculum design is, if a teacher lacks training in reading, in teaching reading, um, the students will definitely be at lost. And we will realize that there will be no progress at all. So learner, these are the things that we have to put in mind in giving a diagnostic test or assessments. First is learner. Second one is instruction, and the third is context. Context is creating relationship. Now, when giving reading instruction, let us consider things that could elevate the students' emotions. What else? Build meanings and their interest. Readers should make connections with their personal experience and other text. If we will utilize this, if we will practice this, napaka dali sa ating part bilang teacher na ituro at bigyan ng nararapat na action or intervention ng ating mga students, especially those struggling students. All right. Again, we have to put in mind to consider our learner, our instruction, and the context. Reading diagnosis is about knowing readers. When analyzing this, like what I've said earlier, we have to know the first step in giving um diagnosis. We have to know our readers, right? Anong nasaan na sila? Anong how do you call this? Anong level, anong stand, nasaan na ang ating mga estudyante. Right? Now, when analyzing this, 2 points that relate to diagnostic approach in identifying the students' reading level become evident. First is using observation and other assessment techniques are necessary ingredients to tease out students' strengths and weaknesses. This is actually like what I've said, this will serve as our basis in knowing what their needs are. Diba? Pag alam natin yung anong level ng ating estudyante through using diagnostic um, tools, alam natin kung paano matutulungan ang ating estudyante kung with regard to their needs, right? And how to strengthen those. Second one is using what is discovered from the observations and assessment techniques is essential to plan appropriate instruction. So based on the result of the diagnostic assessment that we gave to our students, we can now then design materials. What else? Make actions, make interventions for to meet the needs of our readers. Kaya sabi ko kanina, kailangan na kailangang bigyan ng attention, ng importance ang teaching, ang training in teaching reading. All right. Next one is the reading level. Okay. Teachers and reading specialists use diagnostic assessments of reading to test the students' reading ability, and the results, would serve as basis to identify the reading level of the students. Is it necessary is it important to identify the reading level of students? Yes. Like what I've said, this will serve as our basis on how to design proper materials for our students. So, what is the reading level? It simply tells where the child is in terms of reading comprehension and potential. Okay, knowing your students' reading level is the key to growth, especially when it comes to working on challenging areas that are lacking. Di ba? For example, kulang sa estudyante ng hindi the student doesn't know how to comprehend. The student is not exposed to using vocabulary, right? Para alam natin kung ano yung dapat nating matugunan sa ating sa ating mga students. All right. Si student, for example, si student pala mahina sa decoding, sa vocabulary, sa comprehension, or your students can be reading at a high reading level but have gaps which could compromise them at higher levels. Diba? Kaya napakalaking tulong ang malaman ang reading level ng bata to give direct intervention. No, we can give students more personalized instruction. No, when we know where their levels stand. When it comes to reading levels and reading instructions, there's no one size fits all method. Yes, this is so true, right? Our students are unique individuals coming from various backgrounds with different strengths and weaknesses, and these should be properly addressed. That is why reading levels are an important part of comprehensive reading assessment to make personalized instruction. What else? Differentiated instruction. Again, I want to give emphasis on uh, teaching, training, right? In teaching reading on part of the teachers. Napakahalaga yun. What are uh, reading assessments that we use in our schools? Okay, reading assessment is actually a tool to use that's composed of a set of uh, graded passages administered to the students, designed to determine a student's reading level. In public school, we are using different reading level assessment. One one that we use that's widely used is the Phil Erie, right? To identify the reading level of the students. Okay, the reading level assessment also refers to the level of comprehension as indicated by the student's reading score on individually administered tests. Okay, a reading level assessment is one way to measure a student's level of decoding and comprehension. And is it important to identify the reading level of a students? Yes, this gives us valuable information about the students' strengths, and not only that, it also gives us insight into what they need to grow, right? When you know your students' reading levels, we as teachers can get the right books, in their hands at the right time. Napakahalagang malaman kung anong level ang ating mga bata in terms of reading. There are five aspects to the process of reading, and these are phonics, phonemic awareness, vocabulary, fluency, comprehension. These five aspects work together to create the reading experience. And and as children learn to read, they must develop in all five aspects. Why? For them to become successful readers. And these five aspects are present in reading level assessment. These are the areas that are to be tested, right? To know what level of our students belong. Phonics. Phonics is the connection between sounds and letter symbols. It is also the combination of these sound symbol connections to create word. Okay, decoding or sounding out of words is the first step in in reading, right? It helps children, it helps students to hear, identify and use different sounds that distinguish one word from another, and learning to make connection between the individual sounds that each letter represent, and putting those essential aspect when reading is very important. Okay, again, first step in reading is to help students decode, right? Or sounding out of words. There are actually a number of ways that we can teach phonics, right? The most widely used approach is synthetic phonics. For example, children or students are taught to take a single syllable word such as cat apart into each three letters CAT. We pronounce sound for each letter, right? For the students to get kung ano ba yung word that we are trying to teach, right? And blend the sounds together to form a word. Okay, sounding of word. First, first aspect that we have to consider is phonics. Second one is phonemic awareness. This is actually closely related to phonics because both involve the connection between sounds and words. While phonics is a connection between sounds and letters, phonemic awareness is the understanding that words are created from phonemes or a small unit of sounds in language. Actually, these may seem like the same thing. Parang pareho yung phonics and phoneme awareness, right? But there is a subtle difference in these two. Phonics is used only in written language because it involves what? It involves letters. Phonemes are sounds only. Okay? Phonemes are most often learned. Let's put this in mind. Phonemes are most often learned by children, by students, when they before they begin to read because they are centered on the sounds of the language rather than those of written words. Okay. So that's the difference between phonics and phoneme phonemic awareness. Vocabulary. Vocabulary refers to the words that we need to know to understand what we read. True, this is very important, right? Imagine how frustrating it would be to read a story where words are unfamiliar to you, right? What happens? When that happens, it would definitely affect your reading experience. The problem here is that when students do not understand the words, anong ginagawa nila? Okay? Based on observation, okay, I've taught reading for uh 3 years, and based on my observation, What do they do when they do not know these unfamiliar words? They skip words. Okay, when this happens, of course, the meaning of what they are reading becomes unclear. Ito yung problema sa mga bata kapag hindi exposed sa reading, right? How much more yung mga struggling readers. Ang hirap magturo ng reading sa totoo lang. But we have to properly design the materials that we need to use, right? To address all of these problems. There are actually two primary ways on how to teach vocabulary, okay, and how to teach and learn vocabulary words. The first is explicit instruction. Paano ginagawa yung explicit instruction? Okay, someone is telling you how a word is pronounced and its meaning. Pwedeng pwedeng si teacher, okay, or pwedeng dictionary ang gamitin. Okay? But the problem is, for me, if I were a student, it will be frustrating on my part. Because if you go to a dictionary every time you don't understand a word, you'll get frustrated. Diba? Ang nangyayari kasi it interrupts the flow of reading. But to help those struggling readers, I think this one is a good step, so that they will gradually na-improve ang kanila, na-develop ang kanilang reading level. Okay. And all right, vocabulary, reading comprehension. Sorry, fluency. Fluency is a reader's ability to read with speed, accuracy, and expression. Ito na yung mahirap sa ituro sa mga bata, right? Because medyo nagiging complex na. Okay, fluency is important because it is tied with what? Tied to comprehension. Okay, a reader or a student must move quickly enough through a text to develop meaning. Okay, this requires a student or a reader to combine and use of what multiple reading skills at the same time. Okay, kailangan lahat ng kanilang reading skills will work at the same time. Okay, because the student, while the student is reading a text with accuracy and speed, kailangan din niyang malaman kung ano yung meaning and how to feel, right? The feeling of it, expression. Okay. How do we teach fluency to students? Actually, this is very challenging to non-readers because they have to spend more time decoding and less time comprehending the text. So what happens is, pag nangyayari yun, naapektuhan yung comprehension, right, ng mga bata, because they have to read the same passage several times to attain comprehension. Okay, but fortunately, fluency can be taught. Okay, we can teach this, and it is important for teacher or parents to, one, read aloud to children or to students, modeling what good readers do. We have to do that to show, you know to our students or children how we model good reading. Okay, let us show children how we pause, right, for punctuation, and change our voices to make text more meaningful. Okay, this is actually yung results ng if we do this, hindi natin for sure, hindi natin makukuha agad ang results, right? No, this gradually happens. Okay? And kapag nalaman natin na ang bata, napagbasa natin ang bata, the feeling is very fulfilling. And the last one is reading comprehension. Reading comprehension is understanding what a text is all about. It is putting words together and using prior knowledge to develop meaning. Actually, this one is the most complex aspect of reading because students need to decode what they read and make connections between what they read and what they already know. Okay, there are actually a lot of strategies. Okay, ito yung mahirap ituro sa mga bata. Okay? When you ask them to read and when you ask them questions after reading, wala silang maisagot kasi hindi nila naintindihan kung anong ibig sabihin nung pinabasa natin din sa kanila. They lack comprehension. All right? We have a lot of strategies that can be of great help in reading comprehension. Okay, and dami, for example, using prior knowledge, right? What else? Predicting, summarizing. What else? Questioning. Using these strategies would greatly benefit the students. Okay? Hindi hindi man madali sa umpisa, okay? Kaya like what I've said earlier, but gradually the students will develop their reading ability. Okay, I want to give emphasis on the use of prior knowledge. This is very important because it allows student to make connection. Kung ano yung alam niya sa kung ano yung bago niyang malalaman. Okay, make connections to the new information that the student will be learning. Remember the schema theory by KJ. Reading level assessment. Okay, I am presenting to you um, two assessments that can be used to identify the reading ability of the students. Okay, composing of graded passages. Okay, we have the Philippine Informal Reading Inventory, or the PhilErie, and I'm not sure if everyone knows about this, but it's Mackle Crab Reading Comprehension Test. Okay, these are but two of the assessments that we can utilize to diagnose the student's reading ability. Okay, these assessments have actually the same process when it comes to administration, right? Both conducts what screening test to identify students who need further intervention for further testing. Now, after which individualized assessment will be given to those students who did not pass the screening and will be subject for intervention. Okay? Napakahalagang bigyan, okay? Ng assessment ang ating mga bata para malaman natin kung anong level na ba sila belong. Okay? The Philippine Informal Reading Inventory, or the PhilErie, this one is widely used in public schools, right? It is used as a classroom-based assessment to measure and describe the learner's reading performance in both English and Filipino languages, in both oral, silent reading, and listening comprehension. All right, this is administered to grade 3 to 6 learners in public schools to identify their reading ability. Okay, this is one of the instruments that we use to identify the students' reading ability. Grade 3 learners using this level assessment will take the Filipino test, while grades 4 to 6 will take English. But one challenge that I have observed using these assessments, that accuracy. Okay, the accuracy on the results of the screening test, uh, because of different contributing factors, like for example the learner's interest on the reading material, right? Or the time that the test is given. you know 10 to 15 minutes is actually not enough, or it is not a guarantee that the learner is actually a non-reader. Okay, again, this that's why it is very challenging on our part as teachers to identify, to properly identify what level of our students belong. Second one is the Mackle Crab Reading Comprehension Test. It is an authentic reading assessment that attempts to evaluate the reading proficiency level of students. Okay, this is actually used from grades 1 to 12, and this one intends to measure, okay, the reading comprehension level um, of the students. What else? Comprehension ability as well as reading speed. Okay. This test is provided for students to identify their profile. Okay. But the challenge here again, in every assessment, 'di ba? Even in our class, pag nagbibigay tayo ng test, later on we realize na ay dapat yung test na pala nito ay something like that, right? Or we should have changed some of the items like this. The challenge using these assessments that since this one is the writer is or the assessment tool is made by an American-based author, Mako. Okay, the passages are actually not contextualized. So kung gusto nating ituro yung comprehension, if we want to identify to measure the comprehension among our students, mahirap. This will be used, pero items are not contextualized. Mas mahihirapang um, intindihin, okay, ng mga bata kung anong ibig sabihin ng mga words um, presented in the text. So readers should make what? Connections with their personal experiences and other texts. Okay? Contextualization, napakalagang aspect sa pagtuturo ng reading. Okay. Now, using these two-level assessments, we conduct pre-test and post-test, okay, to make comparison as to whether the learner's level has improved or not after giving necessary interventions. Okay, I have a question to ask. Are these assessments enough to identify the reading ability of the students? Sapat ba ang assessments na to para malaman natin kung anong level na bibilong ang ating mga learners? Okay, I want you to think about this question. All right, but you need not to answer. Okay, this is something that we need to reflect on. Okay, that's why teachers should be able to look for other strategies. We should not rely on using level assessment tests, right? We should be able to look for other strategies and approaches that would fit to the needs of our students. Okay, next question. Should we use reading levels to define or restrict students in any way? Okay, given that you are able to identify the reading level of the students, should we use reading levels to define or restrict our students in any way? Let's answer the question after presenting the different levels of reading. Okay, what are the different reading levels? Okay, we have frustration level, instructional level, and independent level. Okay, let's go one by one. Frustration level. Okay, frustration level. The student is. What are the indicators that the student is under frustration level after having all of these, assessments, and we identify ano ba yung mga indicators na ang ating students ay under frustration level. The student is, number one, completely unable to read the material with adequate word identification or comprehension. Ito yung mga estudyanteng walang-wala talaga, right? Struggling readers, in other words. Those students who completely cannot read, how much more to comprehend? Ang hirap, right? Reading is to teach reading it's very challenging actually in our part as teachers. That is why in a very early stage, kailangang dapat mabigyan na ng support pagdating sa next level. para so that when students move into the next level, they were able to at least master the necessary skills that they needed before moving into the next level. Ang challenging dito ay kapag ang mga frustration level readers are, itong sinasabi ko kanina, promoted in, for example, grade 7. Okay, from grade 6 student to grade 7 student without having, without having mastered these basic skills in reading. Mahihirapan talaga si teacher, hindi lang si teacher, pati din si student. Okay? Next, signs of difficulty and tension are evident. No, it is very easy actually to identify struggling readers, especially when you ask them to read aloud in class, for example. Di ba? Pag tinawag mo ang pangalan, what are your observations? Okay, nanginginig na. Di ba? Ang mga kamay sa kaba dahil, he knows that the student knows himself that he cannot read. Okay? Parang, dito ko nga naalala yung alamat ng stick. 'Di ba nung bata tayo we were, often taught by our parents to read at home, 'di ba? So 'pag hindi natin alam yung, basahin yung mga words na tinuturo sa atin ng mga parents, okay? Kabahan na tayo kasi ang alam na what happens next is that papaluin tayo ng ating parent, right? Okay, but kidding aside, what I'm trying to tell here is that the students under this level should be well guided. Okay, kasi kailangan magsimula tayo sa very basic, pinaka basic approach natin. Okay, next one is a word for word halting style is common to these frustration level students. Students oral reading under this level is choppy. Okay, a very evident reason for this is lack of exposure to printed words. Okay, kulang na kulang yung exposure ng mga bata. Okay? When we talk of fluency kasi, it's not just about the ability to read the text accurately, but also quickly and effortlessly. Students with poor fluency will have difficulty keeping up with high volume of reading required for academic success. For example, when they are promoted to the next level, di ba, when they're given materials that are not on their level, mahirapan silang makakapagbasa talaga. Okay. Next is uh, accuracy of recognition is less than 90%. Okay, students in this level really find text difficult to read. If you give them, even if you give them the simplest material, mahirapan sila magbasa. Okay, so what should we do? Let's expose these students to different words, right? Familiarity with the words. And lastly, less than 70% of the questions are answered correctly under this level. Text. One possible reason for this is, I think, the text structure, right? It also affects the student's reading ability. Kung paano yung organization ng information in the text presented ay napakalaking factor in affecting the student's reading level. So those are actually the indicators. Paano ba malalaman kung frustration level kung under frustration level ng ating students? Those are the indicators. Right, let's move now to the instructional level. This one is the second level. Okay, what are the indicators? The student can read with assistance from a teacher. Okay, so ang students under this level, they can actually read with proper guidance or proper assistance from the teacher. Next one is for both oral and silent reading are free from behaviors that often indicate serious difficulties such as finger pointing. I think yung best remedy dito is that the teacher should introduce words and concepts, right, that are unfamiliar to the readers to improve their reading ability. Ang problem lang naman dito ay yung they're not the students are not well exposed to to words, right? And one good reading strategy that we can make use is the use of graphic organizers. Third is oral reading is less fluent. Okay. Um, one strategy that we can use, we can utilize in to address the, this problem is, read aloud. Read aloud to children or students to provide a model of fluent reading. Or if not, no, have children listen, or have students listen to uh, with audio recordings, okay, and let them follow along. Accuracy of word recognition is 70% in under students under instructional level. So these are actually some of the indicators that we can say our students are under instructional level, based, of course, based on the assessment that we used. Third one is independent level. Okay, independent level is where the student is able to apply oral reading accuracy, okay, comprehension. What else? They can comprehend text independently without the teacher's support. So let's take a look at some of the indicators of independent level readers. One is the student can read successfully without assistance. Okay? Ito yung mga magagaling na mga students that, that even without the teacher assistance, they can handle themselves, right? Kaya nilang intindihin kung ano yung binigay nating material sa kanila. Okay? Very ideal. Sana lahat ng mga ng students natin, especially in public schools, are uh, like this, right? Oral reading is fluent and free from behaviors such as finger pointing and overt signs of tensions. They're very confident. These students are actually very confident students. The students' accuracy of word recognition while reading orally is 90% or higher. Okay. Silent reading is free from finger pointing, and for both oral and silent reading, comprehension is excellent. There are these students under independent level can really comprehend, can really understand what the text is all about. Okay, after reading, even if you give them what questions, right? And the reader is able to answer 90% or more of the questions correctly, okay? Because the student uh, can read, and not only that, can comprehend. Okay, let us pose and ponder. Should we use, now, after identifying these reading levels of the student, should we use reading levels to define or restrict students in any way? Paano kapag ang estudyante gusto magbasa? For example, a teacher gave reading material suited for a teacher's for a student's grade level, reading level. Pero ang gusto ng estudyante, gusto niya magbasa na reading materials under instructional level. Should we restrict students to read? Okay, like what I've said a while ago, using one or two standardized tests is actually not enough. Hindi sapat na gumamit tayo ng isa o dalawang diagnostic test or standardized test to diagnose the reading readiness of our students, right? Because there are a lot of contributing factors, like it could be personal factor, what else, environmental factor, or it could be that the student does not really have the interest on the material given, okay, on the time that the reading level assessment test was given. So these are actually some of the factors that we can that we can consider, okay? Kasi may mga may mga estudyanteng for example nakapag-test ng reading level assessment na bumagsak, right? That when you review their profile, for example, their grades in English and other learning areas, performing student pala, right? So these are some of the factors that we have to consider. The trouble begins when the emphasis becomes more about the label than the experience. Okay, we don't want to control a child's or a student's passion, okay, by discouraging them from reading books that are outside of their level. Okay, teacher, gusto ko magbasa ng material under frustration level. Okay, ang sasabihin ni teacher, no, we should not discourage these students to read, to read books that are outside of their level. Okay, there's actually nothing wrong with picking up a book that is too easy or a book that's way too difficult because the child is interested and wants to explore. But of course, hindi pwedeng si estudyante lang ang gagawa ng lahat, right? It should be properly he should be properly guided by the teacher still. Proper guidance is still needed. The researchers explain how important it is to let kids explore their interest, not just their levels. Absolutely true. No, when too much is actually when too much focus is actually placed on the levels, students can feel what pressure to perform, di ba? Kailangan yung thinking ng estudyante, kailangan makamove ako sa next level, okay? Especially those frustration level students. Um, if you if we teachers put too much placement on levels, right? Or too much focus on levels, the students can feel what pressure to perform. And if they develop the attitude that the only purpose of the only purpose for reading is to accomplish tasks that is increasing their reading level, and ang mangyayari, what happens is that we are not helping them become lifelong readers. Kasi ang thinking nila, kailangan kong kailangan kong mag-move sa next level. Okay? It should not be that way, right? We want to help our readers, our students become lifelong readers. Okay? Readers need to define success for themselves and take ownership over their own growth, because that's according to Benson. Students need to know themselves as readers. Okay? Kung ano ba yung strengths, kung ano yung challenges na dapat um, pagtuunan ng pansin, right? And, capable of the students should be capable of meeting, of setting goals in order to become stronger readers. Okay, again, students need to know who themselves as readers. Reading levels are only one piece of the puzzle. Okay, fostering literacy growth in our students involves many factors beyond assessment. Gaya ng sabi ko kanina, one or two reading assessment is actually not enough, right? To identify the reading readiness of the students. Okay, there are a lot of contributing factors that would affect the reading ability of the students. Okay, what are the key elements to become powerful readers? I'd just like to share this one. Okay, ano ba yung mga ways on how to make uh, our students powerful readers? First is authentic reading experiences. Okay, readers should be exposed to text or reading materials that would engage them in real life situations. Kasi hindi lang yung reading passages with questions at the end. Okay? You know, something that is what meaningful, relevant, and useful to the reader. Okay. When that happens, when we provide readers authentic materials, they can actually relate to it. Okay, and they can able to they are able to apply that in real life experiences. Okay. Next one is access. Readers should have should have access to choose books from a variety of topics and genres. Okay, but this one is actually very challenging. Okay, whenever we talk of resources, especially in terms of its availability. Okay, but there are a lot of books and other reading materials that we can utilize online, especially in the new normal setup. Okay. Um, challenge is for the teachers. So let's be creative. Okay. Teachers tayo, kayang-kaya natin yan, right? Makakahanap tayo at makakahanap tayo ng paraan para sa ating mga mag-aaral. Okay, we can all do, we can all do, or we can everything's possible. Okay, we can look for possible ways on how to address the needs of our students kahit mahirap. Okay, teacher tayo. And choice, can again, interest is a powerful motivational factor that energizes learning. Okay, sabi nga nila, readers should be able to create what personalized selection of text that challenges and excites them. Okay, not only that students will be motivated pag madaming pag if they are able to choose text or passages or reading materials that are that 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 they find interested or that would how do you call this one, interest them, right? It's 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 more of what, um making connections. They are able to make connections. They are able to comprehend the meaning of the text being read. Okay. Next one is variety. Okay, we have different uh, learners. Okay, and meeting the reading needs of diverse learners is one of the most challenging tasks. Okay, what should we do? Instruction should be very varied in order to give students multiple ways on 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 you know in showing what they know. Okay, sabi ko kanina, um, teacher training, okay, should be given emphasis. Kasi with that, the teacher, if the teacher is well trained, the teacher would be able to look for different materials, okay, for a different instruction, okay, design different instruction for the student, okay, to meet their needs, okay, and as guidance. Again, like what I've mentioned in the previous slides, students need a strategic instruction designed to address their individual needs. And one way to do this is, include questions that allow them to go deeper, okay, to think, to reflect, and assessment. We conduct assessment, right? The teacher should conduct assessments to determine the students' specific skills and how to target instruction. Because we always base our intervention, what else, our instruction on the results of the assessments we conducted. Because through this, teachers are able, sabi ko niya, teachers are able to design intervention that is best suited to the current needs of the students. Okay. Reading, according to Zaldov, he stated that the teacher's familiarity with their students' backgrounds, interests, and sociocultural identities are at least as important in identifying appropriate books for students are as list based on books, print, language, and literacy uniformity. Okay, first, reading is interactive process. Okay, so the difficulty or actually the difficulty or ease with which a reader can read a text depends in part on his or her prior knowledge related to the text. And not only that, of course, the motivation for reading it. Okay? Kaya when we give material reading materials to our students, we should see it that that it would engage them into 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 the material that you have given, and something they can um, connect to the ideas that they can get in the materials, right? Reading research has repeatedly demonstrated the effects of prior knowledge on reading comprehension. Simply put, it is easier to read and understand text that talk about things you already know a lot about. Okay, when readers have a good bit of a prior knowledge, okay, nabanggit ko in my earlier stage yung schema theory ni Piaget. Okay, when students actually have prior knowledge on the topic or the material that we have given, even difficult text can be easier to read and understand because they can draw on their knowledge to to fill whatever gaps in their comprehension. Okay, should be contextualized prior knowledge. Interest and motivation also affect a reader's ability to read a text. Okay? Sabi mo kanina, there are actually instances wherein a student fails in the reading assessment test because the student is not because the student is what's the proper word, mahina, parang ganun, right? But because the student lacks interest, hindi siya interested in the material, in the material, the reading material that's given to him. So the tendency is that babagsak siya sa reading assessment test. Okay, that's a factor actually. Now, um, even a struggling high school reader who test, for example, nagtest si grade 7 student ng reading level assessment after after taking a test, it found out that his level actually belongs to grade 5. For example, okay? Kahit ganun yung level ng estudyante kapag interesado at motivated si student na magbasa, okay? The student can actually able to manage, to read and understand text that even hindi siya hindi match doon sa kanyang reading level, kaya niyang intindihin at basahin because it is in line with his interest. Okay. But of course, like what I've said a while ago, it should be the students should be properly guided by the teachers. Okay, and of course, there are a lot of resources made available, okay, online to help motivated readers read difficult texts from dictionaries. We have online resources. The students can even ask teacher, right, or parent about the words that they do not know. We have a lot of ways on how to motivate these students. Okay, I want to present about profile analysis, about the profile of the students. Actually, it's very important. Okay, it is very important to take into account their profile, like for example, their academic performance, on how they perform in English and other learning areas. Okay, the other will be knowing how are these students well exposed in school and at home. Okay, in reading English text. Okay, these are some of the things that we have to consider also. Okay, let's analyze some of these profiles. Okay, and look for and present proper interventions. Student one has a good or adequate language comprehension and good or adequate decoding. Okay, so how can we describe this student? The student with this profile is most likely at or above grade level in reading. So this student would, this student belongs to independent level. Okay, hindi na kailangan ng hindi na kailangan ng the student doesn't have problem in comprehension and decoding. Okay, student two. A student who has a good language comprehension but poor word recognition or decoding skill. Okay, how can we describe this student? This profile is term specific word recognition difficulties because the student's reading problems are specific to word recognition, not language comprehension. So the problem here is that the student has poor word recognition or decoding skill. What should we do as teachers? Okay, we should find strategies on how to let's make use of what effective phonics intervention. There are actually a lot of interventions that we can or strategies that we can utilize. One is blending of words, right? This one is of great help to um, to develop the decoding skill of the student. Profile number three. A student has a poor language comprehension but good recognition or decoding skill. Kabaliktaran ng profile two. So how do we describe this student? This student is called specific comprehension difficulties because the student's reading problems are specific to comprehension and do not involve reading words. Alam na alam ni student magbasa, okay? The student knows how to read, but the problem is that the student is unable to, sorry, um, the student has, yeah, the student knows how to read well, but the student doesn't know how to comprehend, the ideas that are being presented in a text. So what should we do? What proper intervention should we do? We can do what? Phonics intervention is needed, but comprehension intervention is more effective, like focusing on the vocabulary or background knowledge, or we can do questioning. Okay, okay, and fourth profile is the student has weaknesses in both language comprehension and word recognition skill. So in this profile, the student is often called mixed reading difficulties because the reading problems include both word recognition and comprehension. Okay? Frustration level students. Okay? So anong kailangan natin? The student with in this profile needs what? Phonics intervention and intervention addressing his specific comprehension needs. We actually have a lot of strategies on how to meet these the needs of these students. Okay, sabi ko kanina, it's really just a matter on how we design reading materials. Okay, to properly address the current needs of our students, especially in terms of vocabulary, comprehension, and a lot. Okay, I actually prepared some of the questions that I often get asked of. Okay, or we encounter. Number one question: are these standardized tools effective in identifying the reading level of the students? Okay. Again, one like what I've said a while ago, one or two standardized tests is not enough to measure, the reading abilities or the reading readiness of the students. There are contributing factors that affect the reading level of the students, like the students' motivation, the students' read interest, okay, and a lot more. Second question: how can I teach reading and make necessary intervention in the new normal? Oh, this is very challenging, especially in the present situation. Okay, teaching reading during distance learning involves a lot of components. Okay, there are different instructional contexts and different online tools available. Okay, we can make use of interactive read aloud, what else? Guided reading, using, maybe we can use live sessions, right? Let's maximize the use of the technology and other teaching and learning platforms. And other than this one, let's communicate with the parent, okay, to monitor all the progress of the child. After all, it's not actually a sole responsibility of the teacher, right? We can collaborate with the parent to to help the student meet his needs. What is the best reading approach to identify the reading level of the students? Okay, there are actually multiple ways to teach and learn reading. Ang dami. Okay, some methods, yung iba pwedeng gumana sa isa, yung iba hindi gagana sa isa, right? So some methods do not work to others, but some methods work, okay, better than the others. Okay, for me, using standardized test, other than using standardized test, reading aloud is one of the best ways to prepare students to learn to read, because it actually, we can actually test the different elements like phonemic awareness, phonics, what else? Comprehension, vocabulary. Okay, let us help students become good readers. Okay, especially to those who are in need of help by using this approach, reading aloud. Let us model how to read aloud to our students. I actually get asked of this question very often. How do we inspire our students to love reading? Okay? Paano nga ba dapat na i-motivate ang ating mga students para magbasa, so that to be interested in reading? Okay? Um, I think let us just show our students or children how if you're a parent or if you're a teacher, let us show our students or our children, okay, how we love reading, so that in that way they will also be motivated to read. Okay, and let's provide a variety of books, right? Let's surround them with good books that are in line with their interest. And I actually read an article about this, and I remember one of the statement saying, if you want to um, motivate or inspire your students to love reading, you should meet them at their comfort zone. Okay, try to talk to them about their favorites. For example, favorite movie character, or if they love video games, you can ask for their favorite video games. Okay, and try to look for books or text that these characters in the movie are present. Okay, because in that way they'll be motivated. Sasabihin nila, um this character is my favorite, so I need to read this, right? Something they could relate into. All right. So I am open now for the questions before I do my conclusions.
Thank you so much, sir. Now we will proceed to the question and answer portion. Our first question is from DKDK Vlog Z. How can we diagnose the reading level if we use modular modality?
Yeah, that is actually very difficult, um because we cannot actually just hand the we cannot just hand the reading material to or reading assessment test to the student, okay, and aalis na, okay. You can ask the student to um maybe if you want to meet the student in person, pwedeng you can hand in your the materials, and then that's 10 to 15 minutes, okay. Pwedeng maybe the student and the teacher could find effort on how to do that. And if not like that, we can actually maximize the use of technology. Okay, we can do live sessions. Okay, you give the text to, or you give the material to the student, mm, in the different. We have a lot of online platforms, and then you can do live sessions. Okay. Next question, Ms. Jillian.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Lenny Remitar. Our country is the least when it comes to reading. What could be the possible problems in this scenario?
Yeah. Actually, like what I've said, we actually have reading is one of the challenges um that we one of the challenges that we face in the field of education. One of the problems that I actually see is maybe teacher training, right? Teacher training should be given emphasis on how to teach reading, okay, because no matter how good curriculum design is, kahit gaano kaganda yung curriculum design, kahit gaano ka-effective yung curriculum design, if there is no enough training for teachers to teach reading to students, especially those students who are struggling readers, um, it will be really very difficult. Yeah, teacher training. What else? Provide materials that are actually how do you call this, that the students can connect into, right? Kasi ang nangyayari when we teach reading, we just give materials to students, okay. We also need to consider a lot of factors like their interest, okay. What else? Their motivation in reading, okay. So teaching reading is actually very challenging, right? But as we are teachers. We are very creative, I believe, and that we can devise ways on how to make it even more fun. Miss Jillian.
Thank you, sir. And our last question is from Jocelyn Baratas. Sir, how about yung bata at first grade pa lang hindi na marunong magbasa? Paano to i-cope up? Ginawa na ni teacher lahat. Pagdating na sa grade 6, hindi talaga marunong. Ano po ang gagawin ni teacher?
Yes, actually that happens, right? There are students, sabi ko kanina, there are students who actually get promoted even without having mastered the basic skills. Ang dapat gawin, all right, as teachers, what we should do is that when we identify already the child or the needs of the students, the weaknesses of the students. Okay, for example, from grade 6 to grade 7. Okay, the student in the grade 6 student doesn't really read well. Okay, no comprehension at all. So no problem. Some skills have not mastered by the student. So pag nag-move siya ng grade 7, ang gagawin dapat ay, siyempre, the student needs to master another set of skills. So the teacher should do what? Should continue, right? Kailangang i-continue ng new student na develop yung mga basic skills na hindi pa niya na master bago mag-move sa next level. Okay? We have a lot of different strategies and approaches. Sabi ko kanina, one way is read aloud. Very, very helpful approach to teach students, for example, comprehension, decoding, vocabulary, and so forth. Miss Jillian?
That's all the questions we have for now. Any last reminders to our viewers for today po, sir?
All right. Thank you for the Miss Jillian. Actually, I prepared here before I end my presentation, I still have here. Let us instill the love of reading among our students. The new normal education will definitely be very challenging, but I believe we can still make teaching and learning fun, right? After all, we are in the process of learning, relearning, and unlearning. Okay, let me just share to you the mantra of my principal in Makati High School. He says, "As one we can as one." Now, with that, um, yeah, we can make things possible if we can collaborate with our colleagues, right? We can do everything because we have each other. Okay, and that ends my presentation. Thank you so much for being with me for 1.5 hours. But before I say goodbye, I would like to make a shout out to all my friends and to my family watching in um, Isabela, Kabagan Isabela. I have a lot of friends watching um, in University of Makati, my classmates in DEM, my classmates in Metropolitan College, my classmates in Delphi Albano High School. Okay, just fugag ni kamungaming. And also, my parents are watching right now. Hello to my very supportive and lovely parents, Jaime and Lolit Buraga. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Vibal. And I hope everyone's safe. Keep safe, and again, happy Teachers Month. Thank you so much for being with me for 1.5 hours. Miss Julian?
There we have it. In behalf of Vibal Group Incorporated, I would like to thank our speaker for today for this very eye-opening and insightful learning session. It is an honor to have you with us today, sir. And to all our Kavibal viewers, all thanks to you for your continuous patronage to our daily learning session. Don't forget to register to get your e-certificate of participation. And we encourage you to subscribe and watch on our official Vibal Facebook and YouTube channel. Muli, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa ating lahat.